So, John Reecer, Monroe County native. So, give me just a little bit like where you grew up, even though I'd already said Monroe County, where you grew up, where you went to school, where you went after school, kind of like your post high school education, stuff like that.
Grew up in Monroe County, Tompkinsville, Kentucky. And then after that, Monroe County High School, Western Kentucky University, undergrad and postgrad. Concentration undergrad in English, professional writing was the concentration. And then postgrad, again, still got my master's in English with the concentration in composition and rhetoric, which is a bit different than professional writing in some ways. We'll probably get into that. And then after that, I lived in Bowling Green for a few years as a reporter, a couple newspapers, I was a sports editor for Glasgow Daily Times. And then after that period of my life was over, it was Bowling Green Daily News as a news reporter. And then after that, around 2022, moved to Louisville, and I'm now an editor with Peak Media. More specifically, I'm the editor of Community Rec magazine with Peak Media. There's other duties I help with at Peak Media with their other publications too.
Yeah. So let me give you just a real quick warm up question.
Okay.
Is the media biased against President Trump?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Wow,
Do not feel obligated
my
to
hair's
hit
on
that.
fire right now.
No, I'm just kidding, dude. You're good. No, I did have a couple people wanted me to ask you about if Chad Wilson used to beat you up when you all were kids. Is that true?
Very true. I was intentionally bullied by both Wilsons.
By both even Neil? My goodness.
No, Neil and Chad, they were awesome, and everyone knows they're great. But
yeah, fair enough. And I won't say any names, any potential blocks on Twitter that could be uplifted.
Is this foot?
I don't want to say who.
No, it's definitely fun. I definitely blocked him back in the day. I'm not really on Twitter anymore.
Yeah.
I still have it, and I still, whenever some newsy stuff happens in sports, especially,
Yeah.
I still get on there. But I'm not really on Twitter much anymore. So.
Yeah, and it's funny because I use a lot of people use Chat GPT, and I'm always I'm just ornery, or maybe I'm just stupid, but I go my own way a lot, and I started using Grok, and so I'm on Twitter with at least in that regard. But as far as posting, anything that I post is something that one of the programs that I use to distribute my content, it just automatically throws it out there. I'm not on it that much either.
Yeah,
but I do enjoy Grok. I do want to talk about kind of the landscape of editing, and I know that I would assume AI is relevant in that regard. So before we get there though, let's just build to that. So you started out with your English major, and then you went and got a master's in English, and then that's when you said you went to Bowling Green? Or was there something between your master's and going to Bowling Green to do news reporting?
So right after I got my master's and that was over, that period of actual schooling was over. That's when I became sports editor for Glasgow.
Okay.
So I still lived in Bowling Green. I was just commuting each day to the office there in Glasgow. And that was a great time in my life. I love sports. You know how much I love sports. Definitely don't take that time for granted. I got to write about sports, have opinions on sports, and get paid for it. So that was cool. And then, of course, that was right around the time COVID happened, and it killed the entire newspaper. So not fun to watch 45 people lose their jobs all at once in a room. That was not fun.
Can I just say, as awful as that is, I didn't know that actually happened.
Yeah.
So
that's why
the Glasgow Daily Times was just gone.
Yeah, it's gone as an entity. I think the publishing company that was over it may still have something there, but as far as I know, I don't see it at all. So I don't think it's there anymore. So
what was that experience like?
Well, it was a little debilitating in some ways and discouraging, but that's just the nature of being a writer and being an editor. So life's going to take a lot of different paths and a lot of different ways. Yes, that was very discouraging to see that happen, and that was another summer of my life where I was job hunting and job searching, but I had built up enough connections in the Bowling Green area, South Central Kentucky area, where people at the Bowling Green Daily News knew me. So I kind of landed on my feet pretty quickly. I think it just took a couple months. And that's when there was a good opening that happened with them. And we'll talk about this more too, probably, but there's another skill. I only done news reporting once at my time as an intern for the school newspaper at WKU. So I had some news reporting experience, but that was a position that opened up and I needed a job. And I wanted to come out of COVID, strong and not behind. So became a news reporter. And that was just more skills, that I had to take up. And it was a great experience.
Yeah. So did you find did you find was the fact that it was enjoyable, did that make the transition to learning those skills, did that make it easier for you? Like, if you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
if you had done that because you had to and not because you wanted to kind of situation, where you didn't enjoy it, would it have been more difficult?
I think it would have been easier if I had fallen into a sports job because that's, a sports writing job. That's what I really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so getting back in the habit of traditional news reporting, it was some pains. There was some growing pains first.
Okay.
And
So
I
I
do remember.
misunderstood. So you went back into a news like traditional and not sports oriented.
Right. Yes. It was
Okay.
Bowling Green Daily News. My official, I forgot, it was my official title was just General Assignment News. So I did a little bit of everything I needed to
Yeah.
do, but a lot of traditional news. I definitely got put on the COVID beat right there because that was 2020 fall. So I mean, we were in prime COVID stuff. I did a lot of COVID reporting. I did a lot of, quite frankly, political reporting just over, hey, this very famous politician is in
Yes.
town. Of course, Bowling Green is a multiple of them. So, with Rand Paul was one who
Yeah.
he literally has a residence in Bowling Green. I interviewed him multiple times. McConnell, he
Yeah.
has an office in Bowling Green. Interviewed him multiple times. So that was something I had never really done before. Was more of just be as objective as possible. Here's this thing that this guy's talking about today. New
Mhm.
funding for a health center, something of that nature. Those kinds of things.
Yes.
But yeah. And so I got to do a lot of feature writing too. That was really cool. And I really enjoyed doing that. And that's something that I still do today in my current position. Doing a lot of feature writing. And I got to do a little bit of sports, just when there are a lot of games around playoff time, spread out across the state, and the reporters could get to all of them. So I did some sports reporting too. And there were some sports features I got to do. So I still got to do a little bit of it here and there. But yeah, I definitely appreciated doing news.
Yeah.
Again, I had done news with the College Heights Herald, which
Okay.
is still around for the Western Kentucky University school newspaper. I was a summer intern, got to do a lot of news in and around Bowling Green during that time, and I really, really had a great time doing it. It was a great experience. But yeah, doing news is a different beast, a different monster, especially in that COVID time. We can talk about that more too. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'd love to talk about it, but like only to the degree that you're comfortable to talk about
Yeah.
it, because all that stuff on both sides is what, and we shouldn't. That's the problem is when we say both sides, because it's just it's a polarized issue and it's not
Mhm.
a general issue. But, it's such a charged issue on both sides that it can. I'm not here to push. I would be here more to learn about. Well, so let me ask you this. You talked about having to be more objective. Were there times where that was more difficult?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, just to give you my personal experience, I remember around the time of COVID and we're having to write about COVID, I had to do very specific stories like the med center in Bowling Green was at capacity because, during that time it was really,
Yeah.
really tough. And that was one heck of a day in my life. I remember very well. It was a Friday morning, came into the office, thought it was going to be a slow Friday, do my daily story. And my overall editor had called me in and I had to do a piece on how I got on the phone immediately with one of the overall, sorry, I don't know their official title, but one of the overall people in the ER there and talked to them and said they were at capacity and we need to
Yeah.
report on it. We need to let people know that it's a real thing, that people are getting very sick. And of course, that was during one of the spikes around the winter time and after COVID had hit there at the start of summer 2020, in March of 2020, that springtime, and things had really, people generally get more sick around the winter time anyways.
Yeah.
I reported on it and it was just, I think it just really alarmed a lot of people because the med center in Bowling Green is one of the bigger hospitals in the state, third biggest city in the state, and the governor quote tweeted it. So that really took it off. There was I forgot his name. I think it's Aaron something, but he's a very big person on Twitter who just he just reposts basically media hits that all politicians do and stuff. He reposted it. So it was intense. My mentions were a mess that day, just with conspiracy theorists and stuff like that. And then it really took on another nature when people saw my name with it and I was getting some concerning messages on Facebook. So that was
Really?
not to play the victim card or anything
I don't
like
think you're
that,
playing the
because
victim.
that can be a little annoying when reporters go out of their way and talk about, look, all these bad messages I got publicly. Everyone kind of felt bad for me, in a sense, so I don't want to make it seem like that. But it wasn't like I got hundreds. It was just 3 or 4 messages that I got, and they were just calling me a bad reporter. Like, look at this, look at the waiting room, it's empty. Well, the waiting room can be empty, but they can still be at capacity in their rooms on how they're able to treat patients. So there was misconceptions in the
Yeah.
media like that. Again, some alarmist. It's alarming, and when
Yeah.
emotions are high around that time, and so you
sure.
just have to. The hardest thing about news journalism, no longer a news journalist, so this no longer applies to me to an extent, but I'm very careful about what I post and opinions and things of that nature when it comes to more charged subjects. But during that, if you're a news journalist, you're not supposed to be posting your opinions, especially on things that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, there's a difference if you're a sports writer and you're giving your opinion on John Calipari, should he be fired or not, or your opinion on vaccines and should like you got to play that to your chest. You have to be objective and you have to just tell the story as it is. And so that can be hard. Like,
Yeah.
in a very roundabout way to answer your question, yeah, it was definitely hard at times not to post my personal issue, or my personal opinions on very, very charged subjects. We all think we're right. We're all the heroes in our own stories in some ways. So that was a tough lesson to learn. And I hope I did a good job of it while I was a news reporter, but
Still working.
yeah, still working. What I do now, with Community Rec Magazine, so our entire publication at Peak Media is more B2B, business to business. So it's less writing for the general public and writing for specific audiences. The biggest one that we have is called Club Solutions Magazine. Now, that one has been around for 20 plus years. That goes out to private health gym owners, Planet Fitness franchisees, Crunch Fitness franchisees, just gyms of that nature. And it's very pointed about health and fitness. So that's really cool. And then the one I write about is Community Rec, which takes everything I just said, but to the YMCA, community rec centers, parks and recreation, Jewish community centers, JCCs, Salvation Army centers, you name it.
Yeah.
Anything that's community rec nonprofit based. So there's a lot of topics I get to write about there that kind of overlap with some of my news experience.
Do you find that, is it satisfying enough? Like, does it scratch the intellectual itch enough?
Yeah. Well, luckily there's so many topics that cross over because, what a YMCA CEO cares about is how do I get members to my community? How can I assist my community in the best way possible? So AI is a huge topic. I know you've talked about it before on the podcast before, but AI is a huge topic in communities, how to reach different sections of your communities who may be underserved or who may not be coming to your center enough. So a lot of those topics overlap, and trying to think of other things that philanthropy, community service, fundraising, and then with health and fitness and trends in health and fitness.
There's no shortage of it's a very full well to pull from.
Yeah. And it's kind of somewhat sports adjacent because I've written about, the biggest trends in fitness going on, and there's a lot of overlap between what athletes care about and what, your typical gym goers and fitness enthusiasts care about too. So we're going to take a brief pause. I like how you have your mic set up. So I'm going to mimic that right now. So you just pop that straight up like that, and then you just toot. What a genius move. Genius move. I appreciate that so much. Hey, man, I should have done this earlier, but again, I'm under the weather. But everybody that comes on gets a gift. Do you watch like Sean Ryan show podcast? Everybody gets a gift that comes. It's not a gag. It's a legitimate. It's a legitimate gift.
It's a legitimate. Go ahead and check it out. Check it out. Go ahead and open it up. It's a legitimate gift. Yeah, you got two t-shirts, bro.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. No, you got more. Yeah, you got more in there, dude. That's that.
Sweet.
So I'm not pushing faith on you, but I just wanted. It's a genius. It's a Jesus journal.
Awesome. I will use this.
Yeah, it absolutely. Writing prompts and having to really think about what I actually believe has helped me grow my faith. It's like your faith is like a muscle, dude. You have to challenge it. You have to test it. You have to work it. So yeah.
This is legitimately great.
And then there's a second shirt in there too, which is the rookie year with the rook on it.
Sweet, man. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, dude. Yeah, I hope you like them. Yeah, it's free advertising for me. So yeah. So back to it. So yeah, there's no shortage of topics of things for you to write about. So I'll let you pick, people. What drew you to writing? What drew you to that area, that dimension, domain, whatever you want to call it?
At a young age, I think in elementary school, I was so addicted to reading. I loved reading. So I was a total bookworm and I loved it to death. I was very competitive. So the accelerated reading stuff, I had to get the most points. I had the record for a long time.
Like you had to, as in internally? or externally you were being motivated to?
I just became kind of fascinated with storytelling and stories in general.
Okay.
I think that comes back to my religion too, because we see the Bible as true,
Yeah.
and in its most purest sense, the Bible is one grand story.
Yes.
But I do love general storytelling. I hate to be basic, but I was one of those kids that just started out with Harry Potter and just, it was awesome. But aside from that, growing up, general storytelling and just reading lots of books were amazing. And then around middle school, sports really started taking the lead in my life, and lead as far as like a general hobby and interest that I love to care about. And I just loved waking up every Saturday morning, watching College Game Day, and seeing them tell the stories of players. That's when I loved Notre Dame football and really became addicted to Notre Dame football. But so sports became big in my life, and I was like, okay, this is another way into storytelling. This is another way to really love and appreciate something bigger than myself, because you love sports too, and you played sports, and what's all the great things.
I've broken my body for sports.
I have not had too many injuries, luckily. I did not have many, but I will say around middle school too, around that time is when I really became a movie enthusiast. So I adore movies.
When was that? Sorry.
Around middle school.
School?
Around that time is when I was still reading a lot too, but I really got into movies. Just as a source of storytelling, a source of... Everyone has their own art that they love, and whether they know it or not. Everyone's a nerd for some kind of art, whether it be actual art, TV shows, music, movies.
There's something that they could, whether they realize it or not, whether they discovered it or not, there's something that they could latch onto.
Exactly. And so for me, it became really movies, and it still is movies to this day. People know I love movies, and I love to talk about movies. But that was around the time it just shifted for me into movies, and that really took hold in my life. But then in high school, it's very stereotypical, but I had a couple of teachers that were great in English. You had Dotson, about Jason Dotson, the GOAT.
Yes.
The GOAT. But that was junior year, and so I got back into reading a lot, and I really became fascinated with writing, and everyone's trying to decide what they want to do junior and senior year. And for me, it was like, okay, I think I'm going to go try to be a journalist. We'll major in English in case I want to be an English teacher one day. And I got to college, and it was very, very eye-opening just to see, and it was very eye-opening for me just to see different walks of life and people who believe differently than I believe. Nothing wrong with that. But it was fascinating to see different stories of people's lives and to develop that empathy for people that are different than you and very, very, very fundamentally different than you.
Absolutely.
That's when I was really latching on to sports writing, got into the College Heights Herald, I got to write about sports. I got to do gamers, got to go to basketball games and football games, and I was so appreciative of that. And from that moment on, I was addicted. I was in sports writing, I was in general journalism, and there was no going back for me after that. That's the whole awesome progress of storytelling.
Dude, that's awesome. That's amazing. I think you did a great job laying that out, and I really like what the point you made, because I feel like this too. There's always exceptions, but chances are you're not the exception. And I think unless you are an exception, everyone has at least something that whether they realize it now, whether they've discovered it now or not, they will latch on to, and they cannot get enough of it. Now they may need, breaks, like, I've been investing, I'm kind of getting a little burned out on it, but that burnout doesn't result in never going back to it. It's always like going back to it. So you talked about movies and storytelling, and I tend to be a very specific. First off, Harry Potter is actually great, and it's not the reason. And I know people feel like it's basic, but it's not. The reason why people call it basic is because it's so popular. But there's a reason why it's so popular,
right?
And the second thing is, my basic film series that I watch is Star Wars franchise is Star Wars. Okay. And so, but I mean, like I can get not heated. Heated is not the right word. Like I do invest a lot of thinking through things. And so I want to get your opinion compared to the general population that has watched the movie and has expressed their opinion. Have you seen The Last Jedi? And if so,
this is awesome.
And if so, what's your opinion on it?
Wow, you are going for the mega baiting.
Dude.
You're baiting me.
I'm not baiting you.
That Last Jedi is such a fascinating inflection point. I don't want to use the right word for that, but it's a very, very fascinating moment in pop culture history.
It's a paradigm, not a paradigm shift, but
Yes,
it's along those lines.
Not to fully nerd out on Star Wars, but that was a fundamental piece of art that was created and gave to the general populace that had some serious themes in it and stuff, but it was also mostly for entertainment purposes.
Yes.
But people freaked out.
People lost their minds
about that, and it fundamentally changed Disney's strategy in a lot of ways. It fundamentally changed the sequel to that movie. So, like,
and that I want to speak to that. I am not a super huge fan of The Rise of Skywalker. I put it along the lines of, and people are gonna hate me for saying this too. The prequels are not that great. Revenge of the Sith is Revenge of the Sith is good, but the prequels in general are not that great.
You're exactly right.
And I put Rise of Skywalker with the not so great prequels.
I'm right there with.
But yeah, sorry, I didn't.
Well, I call it what?
No, yes,
its own story. It did its job. Rise of Skywalker. That's just reheated nachos.
Disney responded, and what they should have done, because they've done this since, and it's actually, I think, now they're shooting themselves in the foot doing this. They should have stuck to their guns and wrote that story out the way it was originally intended, and it would not have. I think 10 years down the road, because we're 10 years from Force Awakens, and 2 years will be 10 years from The Last Jedi. And like, I feel like in hindsight, it would be viewed. I'm not saying people would love it, but it wouldn't have this vitriol that's around it. Here's what I appreciate about it. One, I feel like what they did with Luke was, I don't hate it. I think what they did was they did everything we wanted Luke to see, but we wanted to see Luke do, but in a way that we got to see it in a way we didn't anticipate. Like, Luke is not going to be able to withstand I don't care how strong you are, he's not going to be able to withstand a full blast from a walker.
Great. We were just fully nerding out.
Yeah, I don't care. I'll nerd out. Right. He's not going to be able to withstand, but people believe that Legends Luke would be able to do that. And he wouldn't be able to, but the only way they did that, the only way they could, and people are ticked off that the amount of effort he put into that ended up costing him his life. Yeah. Dude, I've got so many, like, what would you say, like, points or just points of conversation that I could go with this movie. I feel like I'm straight up dissociating right now, because things are just getting ready to, like, I'm getting ready to spill some opinions that I have kept to myself for so long.
No, but for me, like, that is a great example of this thing that's been happening in general media when it comes to movies and TV shows, you name it. Whenever a studio takes a creative decision and says, we're going to take a stand, we're going to do something creative, we're going to tell a new story, we're going to do something daring with it. There's always everyone's opinions are very loud now and broadcasted at whatever you want to go with, and people have their own motives for having a lot of hate towards things, but that's part of it. Studios are having this moment where they're listening too much to a lot of the hate, and they're overcorrecting. And now they're creating something that they think fans want instead of giving what fans need, which is good storytelling and strong storytelling. Because there's plenty of Last Jedi haters, but that was its own unique, fully told story.
Yes.
They overreacted, and they just made a greatest hits album of Star Wars.
Yes.
We talk about DC. DC was a lot like this too. They did their own thing, and it was unfortunate that the whole thing with Snyder. I don't want to get into a Snyder cuts conversation. No, this is great.
It's great. I like Zack Snyder's vision.
His own storytelling. It was a darker thing, and then fans cry out about it. This is too dark, and then you get this Justice League movie that is very Marvel, and it's like, okay, that was terrible.
Yes,
you overcorrected, and you tried listening and giving you tried doing what fans wanted you to do. You didn't do what you needed to do, which is tell a fully owned story that is creative. But Last Jedi is a lot of that, because it's another example in media of a very loud subset of people. Whether they're correct or not, it's not the point. You don't have to just necessarily listen to them and do whatever they want you to do. You need to do your own thing and tell your own story. Whenever I watch movies, I'm not so much about the spectacle of it. I actually watch movies with subtitles on.
Okay.
Because I like seeing what people are actually saying, because a lot of that could be lost in translation.
Yes. I
You can
get
get
that.
distracted in a movie. I love seeing what is actually said in a movie and that you can actually see the themes a lot better. I'm a big storytelling guy, so like I care about a good, well-told story.
Yes.
And Last Jedi is like that. And what you mentioned, Luke, I don't want to nerd out too much, but
Nerd
the
out,
fascinating
dude.
thing is like people freaked out about that, about the decisions of Luke, because you see the flashbacks. He's going to kill, Han Solo's son.
Which
He was, but see, Rian Johnson, the director, did this
yes,
really cool thing with memory where you'll see a memory, but that's not actually what happened from that person's perspective. And you see the other perspective. He just came out with a new movie. You should watch it. It's on Netflix, Wake Up Dead Man. It's a Knives Out murder mystery.
I just watched that.
Yeah, it's deeply about religion.
Yes.
But he does the same thing where he changes people's memories, and that's how memories are. They are flaky, and you can disassociate from what the memory actually is.
Yes.
But anyways, I love that fascinating storytelling technique that he used, and I just found Last Jedi to be really engaging in a lot of ways because it deals with a lot of themes, and a lot of people see Luke Skywalker as this untouchable hero figure that never does anything wrong. It's like that's not a he was kind of close to that in the trilogy, but he was also a teenager and he had his mood swings. And
did, but can I not point out the fact that he himself in that movie states that is exactly what led up to him almost killing
Kylo.
Ben Solo, well, Kylo,
Yes,
and the thing of it is, like, and I'm going to be a nerd, and people can cut out this part and skip to whenever we get back to talking like regular people again. But the thing of it is, he never went to kill him.
Right,
he went to confront him, and then he read his mind and instinctively turned his saber on, and that's all Kylo saw. So Kylo was like, "You're trying to kill me," and Luke was like, "Oh, crap." And the only reason that happened was because he had got so big-headed, he thought that he would never even be instinctually going to the to the dark side.
And I don't want to get too much off on another tangent, but I like heroes that are written more human, that have a human conflict. For me personally, this is a very recent example. I never really connected that much with like the character of Superman. In my whole life, I didn't really get the hype. I was more into superhero stuff more when I was coming up through high school and college. Now I'm just like, again, tell me a good story is all I care about. I watched the new Superman movie and I thought it was pretty good, but mostly because that movie got me to care about Superman.
Right.
Because, spoiler alert, they changed the father's intentions.
Yes.
This is controversial, but I actually appreciated that because I was like, oh, this is not a perfect family. Oh, he's actually going out of his way to be good. And choosing to be as good as he is. And like, okay, now I can connect with him.
Yeah.
Now I like him more. Now I can have empathy for him than just being like this perfect Jesus-like character. It's like, okay, well, this is not very realistic. So I think that's just an example of like creating. You can always write yourself out of a hole. You can always edit and make good creative decisions that maybe go against the grain, could upset people that like what they've always been told, but that's just good writing.
Temporary upset, I feel like, is better than just a complete I don't even know what demolishing of what you intended.
I said reheated nachos earlier.
Yeah.
But that's a phrase to just say, man, this person didn't put any effort actually into this. They just, they just debating. They're just going off of what everyone has liked in the past, and they're just keep on giving you that. And eventually, the nachos are going to start tasting bad because they're reheated. They're not. But that's
No, I think it's a great analogy, and we'll move on from that. But what I want to ask is Ben Affleck's Batman.
Yeah.
What's your opinion?
He was good. He was a good.
I think so too.
Batman. His Bruce Wayne was fine. I prefer Christian Bale as a Bruce Wayne. His Bruce Wayne was the best that I've ever seen. Ben Affleck was a genuine good Batman. The fighting was good. It was believable. He's a very good director. He's
phenomenal.
You should watch The Town. The Town.
Yes.
And that's Ben Affleck all the way.
That's what I would do too. I would write myself surviving the story when everybody else gets blasted.
Yes.
I do too.
He's kind of like with what Tom Holland's doing. He's the best combination of both of them.
Absolutely. I'll agree with that.
So Pattinson fits that role a lot, but I want to see him more as Bruce Wayne because he was just dressed up as Batman the entire movie, which is cool. But yeah, I love Batman as a character, and I think a lot of people do just because that's a human. That's not a superhero. He's just rich. But that's a guy that's had a lot of conflict, and you root for him because
Would you find him more relatable than Superman?
Yeah, well, he's infinitely more relatable because he was a human that had a lot of privilege growing up, but saw past that and saw that he had to help Gotham at that time, or his
Yeah.
community. And Superman's a literal alien that's perfect and can't be killed, really. So, like, you can't really connect with that as easy. That's just good storytelling of creating that Batman character
Yeah.
and giving him that emotional trauma as a kid and seeing him
Yes.
take that. That's just good storytelling. That's why people.
Yeah. I wish, and we're not going to go on another tangent.
Yep.
But I think that it was important that they did the Batman versus Superman movie just to inspire the people that it would inspire, that even if there's an impossible task in front of you, that just because you're a man doesn't mean you can't.
You gotta go up against Superman's
You got to go up against
CrossFit for a couple of days.
CrossFit for a couple days. But what I didn't like was the manipulation angle, because it was like, yes, you showed that you could go toe to toe with Superman, but your motivations for doing so were not true. And so it was just like, I'll digest that and move on. How else? I mean, how else are you going to tell it? I guess, but anyway, so the Glass Onion series, well, not Glass Onions, Knives Out series. Which movie has been your favorite?
Honestly, I think this one, it could be recency bias. I'm a victim to that sometimes.
Yes.
But I actually think this was the best one because it was the best. It was about religion. It's a movie fundamentally about religion in the modern era, and just responded to that more. So maybe that's my personal bias coming out. But the original was really good because that's just Clue during Thanksgiving. It's a
Absolutely.
Thanksgiving movie,
Yes.
but that movie's just really good. I like how he takes a character and they're basically the main character and the detective isn't in all three movies. And, in this case, it was a priest, and it just had a lot of amazing things to say about religion. And I'd never really seen a Hollywood movie. Of course, you did pose characters as non-believers, your skeptics, but then it had a priest that was a truly good priest and was doing. I want to talk about this. I'm so happy you were talking about it. The phone call conversation. Do you remember this in the movie where
with the lady on the phone?
And they're trying to figure out the murder mystery. So you're going through these guys like Scooby-Doo, and it's entertaining. It's Hollywood. But so he's on the phone with this business owner in town trying to figure it out. And she just stops him and is like, "Hey, you're not the bad priest. You're a good new priest. Can you just pray for me?" And there's like that moment where the movie just grinds to a halt.
Yes.
And it's a very emotional moment where it's like, this is the good side of religion. This is what it can be for people. And this could be a good through line to show people who are skeptics and non-believers and a way to come to it. I saw a post on social media of people like that, seeing that. It's like, man, this almost turned me a Christian. I almost very believing in this, because it's like, this is the healthier sides of it. And I thought that was beautiful. That's good art. And that's something that Hollywood made and produced. And it's like, this is good.
And I think we lose. I think what that showed was there's a humanity.
Yes.
And I think a lot of times with our faith, we can actually lose our humanity.
Yes.
We become, not that we should ever, and I'm being hypocritical as I say this, not that we should ever go against Scripture, but and I'm not advocating for going against Scripture, but there's a Bible thumper mentality that I just cannot stand. And I think like that, you see that in the movie too. And I think that's what people see. That's what non-believers see believers as. And it's stopping to be the person that Christ calls us to be, which in that scene was to, like, they're trying to solve this murder, and that's just obviously important, but this woman is going through a hard time and she just needs somebody to listen to her.
Yeah. And
that is what we're supposed to do. You can beat somebody over the head with the Bible all day, but if they're not open to it, I mean, I don't want to be harsh when I say this either, but if you do that, it's either casting pearls before swine, or you're pushing people away.
Right.
And you don't have to dilute the message, but there's a message, I think, that people can hear. And just because we need to be able to step back long enough to just figure out, how do I just be a loving person right now, and not figure it out. Like, we can call upon God to get to that too. So I think that's great that you brought that up about that scene, because you're right, it does grind the movie to a halt,
Good way.
in a good way, and it kind of goes, and I don't want to spoil the movie at all, but like so many things happen in that movie where it doesn't push one way or the other that God's real or not, but you just like, if you want to walk away from that movie believing in that setting that God is a real figure or something more
Right.
is going on, then you can, and that's, yeah, that
Well,
spoke to me too.
It comes back to that idea. The movie does a good job of showing definitely two sides of religion. But what's very fascinating about the movie is it shows this very societal idea of the world is bad, and the society is against religion, which isn't necessarily untrue in some ways, but in others, it's a little over the top in the messaging, in that, yes, there are people out there that are against religion. That's very obvious. But there's also a lot of people out there that are just trying to find their way. And the bad priest in the movie is very much so taking it to a different kind of political level. Not to say that any kind of politics are bad necessarily.
Right.
Don't want to do that. But that's not the point of Christ. The point of Christ is to tell a story, to lead people to Christ, and to do so in a way that does not stray from his truth.
Just to love them.
Right. A real world example, and I talked to someone about this too recently. I can remember 2 different sermons I've heard that addressed kind of touchy issues. And I just remembered there's a church I went to in South Central Kentucky, big church. And it just basically had a PowerPoint slide up talking about how progressives, or another word for liberals, is basically a satanic movement. And it's like, that's an opinion you have, but that's very alienating. I was just thinking, what if someone was identified as a progressive, which is totally fine, was in that room? How close are they going to get to Christ through that message?
Right.
Then I was able to listen to another sermon, the church I currently go to in Louisville, one of the biggest Southeast Christian churches, one of the biggest, I think it is the biggest church in the state. But the preacher is a great man, Kyle Edelman, I don't know if I said the last name right. Look him up. He's a really good guy. He gave a sermon once about touchier issues like that, and he just basically drew a circle on the stage and made sure he was in the circle. He called it the sin circle. And he said he's no better than anybody else. This is what the scripture says, and it is true, and we believe that it's true, but you have to understand that I'm in this circle too. We're all sinners, and I'm no better than the people that this sermon or these very specific passages will say not to do it necessarily, but I'm also a sinner in other ways, and I'm in the circle too.
Yeah.
So, and that's the way to approach it, religion overall. And that's kind of what the movie got across as well, with leading with empathy and leading with understanding that not everybody is necessarily going to believe exactly like you do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's religion.
It makes me think, and I don't want to mistell this, because this is a story that my dad told me. It's been many years ago, but back when he deployed for Hurricane Katrina with like the 623rd went.
Yeah.
But, they were doing like recovery efforts. They were doing, like whatever kind of rebuilding, like clearing debris, whatever's going on in the immediate aftermath of a hurricane of that magnitude. And the chaplain was wanting them to meet, and have us, and people were like mad, like, no, we need to do this. Like, we don't have time for this. We don't have, and finally, people went. I don't know if it was like one by one or they all went collectively, but they went. And it was like by the time that they went, and then the pastor the chaplain did the sermon, and everybody left there with a collective sense of ease. And it's like, sometimes I think we get so caught up, like, because my job isn't this podcast.
Right.
My job is to, like, I'm a vessel at most, and my job even isn't my therapy practice, but God just uses me in those situations. And so when somebody, whether it's a supervisor or whether it's, which I don't have anybody telling me what to do with this, but even if they're telling me to do this, that might be my immediate target. But I need to be able to pull back at the end of the day and realize that they're not God, that God is God. And I need to be able to just submit and be that vessel, and it's okay to be okay with that, and people say all the time, like, it's okay to not be okay. It is okay to not be okay, but it's okay to be okay too. And what I mean by that is, like, sometimes I feel like if things are going good, we start to panic because we feel like we're missing something, and then we throw ourselves into this anxious fit for no reason. it's okay to be okay. You know, it's okay to just do what you're doing in the moment. If there's no immediate guidance from somebody above you or God, it's okay to just be okay and relax in that. And I say that as a Christian and as a therapist and as a friend.
One of the best analogies I've ever heard about that feeling, because it's like whenever everything's going right and you're riding high, in the back of your mind, it's like, yeah, this is great, but I know something bad's coming up. The best analogy that I've heard is, okay, imagine someone's in the hospital, they're not doing well. You see the monitor, the heart monitor. You see whenever the heart beats, it goes up, then it goes back down.
Yeah.
What happens when a person passes away?
It goes
It's a flat line.
It's just flat. Yeah.
That's life. There's going to be peaks and there's going to be valleys. That's part of it.
Yeah.
The good things, there's going to be a lot of bad times that happen.
Yeah.
Everyone suffers in their own way, but there's plenty of good things that happen too. There's always something good to look forward to. And when you need to start worrying about that, it isn't when you're going through a bad time. It's okay to go through a bad time because that means you're still here and
Yes.
you're still experiencing it. When things are bad or when things are over, it's when it's a flat line.
Yes.
So you need to be able to ride the good times and ride the bad times as a whole. That's something that's more not religious based as an analogy. Ever since I've heard that analogy, I'm like, that's perfect because we all have ups and downs. But, I heard a sermon. The last time I went to church was, a couple weeks ago. And so this is pretty fresh on my mind. But there was this woman that was giving her testimony and she was confined to a wheelchair, very young lady. But, obviously her health wasn't the best. But she was talking about how, every time she gives a sermon or a testimony about how it's not really necessarily about the bad in her life. It's about how everyone suffers and she's no different than anybody else. And the point of life sometimes is to suffer well. How do you suffer? And if you can get something out of that and come out the other side and share that with people, they can see that you're suffering well because it's all momentary. It's not to get too philosophical, but our time on earth is very, very short in the overall scheme of eternity. And your life is just about how well you suffer in some ways.
Why not? Why not get philosophical?
Why philosophical?
Why not though? Because philosophical is trying to get that bird's eye view.
Yeah.
Because if we're looking what's immediately in front of us, yes, it's useful to look at what's immediately in front of you because you see things that you can work on. But when you're so panicked that you can't do anything, you got to have a philosophy for moving forward.
Yeah.
And it makes me think this great Christian TV show called Landman. Have you ever seen Landman?
Oh, I know what Landman is. I have not seen it.
It's not Christian.
I love it's not, but I love that he's a great storyteller. What's his name?
Billy Bob Thornton.
No, the guy who created it. He created
Tyler Sheridan.
Tyler Sheridan is my guy. I love that dude.
He's making a Call of Duty movie too.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. I'm very psyched about that. But is it Taylor Sheridan or is Sheridan?
It might be. I know, yeah, it's one of them.
He did Wind River, amazing movie. He did the one of Chris Pine as a bank robber, Hell or High Water, or it might be Hell and High Water. Amazing movie about just Americana and small town America and normal people. Of course, he's a celebrity, he's playing them, but you should look those movies up. But yeah, he's great. I've still not watched Yellowstone or Landman, but I need to get around to it.
I just got caught up on Landman, and like I said, it's not a Christian TV show, but there is a quote in there that it's not even Billy Bob Thornton, it's John Hamm. He's in there.
John Hamm.
And I'm going to butcher the quote, so I'll just sum it. But basically, that their job is filled with a bunch of problems. It's filled with a bunch of problems with the occasional relief and good fortune, briefly, and basically stop freaking out, this is just another day, and yeah, I don't know. I think having a philosophy, I wish, maybe this is egotistical of me to say this, but I wish more people would start evaluating their philosophy a little bit. And I don't mean that in a judgmental, your philosophy sucks, you have terrible ideology. I mean it there's so much more to life than this day-to-day, immediately what's in front of you. I know where my perspective comes from. It comes from Christ. I believe that if something is true, then it's a reflection of Christ. So I would say if you don't want to pursue Jesus, then pursue truth. Because if you're pursuing actual truth, and you discover actual truth, it will point back to him. But regardless, there's so much more than what we're experiencing, than what's immediately in front of us. But it's also that what's immediately in front of us is just as important, just as valuable, even if it seems tedious or menial, small, there's still value in that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
We're just talking about everything. This is great.
it is good. What about I will say, let me give you a compliment. Like gosh, I'll say this. You legitimately beat me on Guardian on Halo 3, 1v1 like 15 years ago.
Oh my goodness, those were great nights.
Oh, and I remember you won, and you were like, because I heard the kill cam or the kill, like the voice chat, and you were like, got it. Yeah, the last one, baby, you were like, got it, and I was like, oh my god, I just lost to Reecer, man.
That's great for those nights.
Yeah. So did you game it all now? At all?
I did actually last winter a lot. I got on a Fortnite with some friends, but then we also we played a little bit of Marvel Rivals. That was.
I never played it, but I know it was very popular.
I don't play a whole lot of video games now. I've not played a lot of video games this year, but I dabble some here and there when people want to get on and just talk on Fortnite. It's almost like a simulator, walking around with a gun simulator, basically.
Yeah.
At times, but you can just talk with your friends and have a good time. That's pretty cool. Helldivers is another one that I've played before. Yeah. That's pretty fun. But I'm not a big gamer sometimes, but like I started getting more enticed by when college football came back around the college football video game, and so I got that and played that for a little bit. But not so much a video. That's not my kind of art that I have been invested in more. It's more so as movies and TV now.
You know what I think would be cool, and I think would be cool. I certainly get my fat self into shape. Is if they made the affordable, like those like those omnidirectional treadmills.
Yeah, they're just on the floor. Yeah,
and you but you got a VR headset, VR gun, and
your
Warzone. Your Warzone, dude. I mean, I would have so much fun. But dude, you get. It's awful to say. I shouldn't say. I'm not going to market this to kids. However, I will say, if you did market it to the right demographic of people, you're gonna have some physically fit, trained individuals that you can recruit in a crisis situation. So, I think it would be. I wish they would do something like that. I think it'd be amazing. Yeah. So, what's the holiday plans for you coming up?
Them and my friend in Louisville has a big New Year's Eve party. I love New Year's. I'm a huge New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
One of my favorite holidays. Probably because I'm kind of nostalgic and I love looking back on the year and taking stock and taking time out. That's kind of my meditative process is New Year's Eve. I love that holiday a lot. Pretty simple and straightforward plans.
Yeah. Is Jenna still working for Comer?
Yes. Yes, fair enough. Yeah, I'm still there in the courthouse.
She might. Okay. I used Comer's website to book a bunch of stuff because I'm going to DC in April just to take a trip for myself. And I don't know who's there, but they're doing they're booking different monuments and what would you call them, attraction. I don't even know the right word, but like the White House, Capitol Building, all those good places. So I didn't know. I thought maybe I'd be keeping her employed by doing that or something. So what's next for you?
Next for me, I love my job. I'm still there. Community Rec magazine, working on feature stories coming up. The next issues to come out the year. It's a bi-monthly publication, so we do 6 issues a year, but we do a lot of digital content. Other than that, I do have a personal blog that I have, and I really was dedicated to it back in 2024, but I think I might start back on it again, just writing about miscellaneous stuff, sports and movies. I may start that back up, but other than that, pretty straightforward with what's next for me and my job. Just growing content, growing the audience, getting to as many community rec centers and leaders across the country, and that's what we do.
Fair enough. Well, dude, I appreciate you coming out. It means a lot. I hope you like the shirts, and there's a card in there for you too. But it's been an honor. It has actually been an honor, dude, to have somebody that shares similar opinions on certain movies and things, because I feel like I'm out here fighting a solo battle sometimes. But no, and even if you disagreed with me, I feel like you're objective enough to be rational about where I or somebody who disagrees with you.
One thing I wanted to bring up, I wanted to bring this up on the podcast. I don't know if you're happy
Go ahead
or not, but Of course, I'd mentioned to you I have some friends who are coaches in the Southeastern
Yes.
Kentucky area high school football, and so Monroe County made a push and had a pretty good season this year. Went to the second round, I think. Played
Yeah.
a really good Lexington Christian team, was what it was. But Chad had texted me because Neil, when I was working for Glasgow Daily Times, had texted me a lot of stuff too about just, hey, what's going on in sports.
Yeah.
But we had this big debate over which football team was the best.
2008 or 2009.
No, but I wanted to bring it up because for anyone who watches this, I don't know if they'll
Yeah.
get to it, but I went through the history of this century on what was available on KHSAA. I was able to like break down the records of every team and to see like
Mhm.
everyone has their own stories because it's like both those 08 and 09 teams. One went 12-2, one went 10-4. You know as well as I do though. That I think about so that 10-4 team was Neil. That was your senior year, right? You know as well as I do. You guys played some great teams.
And so if it wasn't for the record, man, the record is what. So I'm gonna get shot for saying this, but I'm gonna say the 2018. However, it's only because of the record. And no, we couldn't help the fact that we played some great teams,
right?
But the record's the record.
True.
And that's it. And but here's the thing. We came back both years with basically having to rebuild the team.
Yes.
I don't think that we could have rebuilt the team a senior year without having experienced the rebuilding between the 2007, 2008 teams.
Mm-hmm.
And so I will always say 2018, but really it's because that is a combined team that was just
changed the county.
Stacked.
It came out of nowhere, gave a lot of people hope. People need to talk about the 08 team a lot more. That I was not associated at all because I was just in 8th grade. But seeing that from afar, even as a young 8th grader, I was like, this is inspirational. But you know what other team had the same record as 2008? That was 2012 as well, my senior year. Right?
Yeah.
I don't want to start those arguments. But it's so interesting to see how people talk about those three teams in particular and what all they did. But people don't talk about 09 enough because we just honored that team a couple years ago.
Yeah, and I was there for that. And
09 was a special team.
I quit. I really quit keeping up after I moved, which 2000, what you said, 2012?
Yes, that was my senior
year. I was still somewhat around, but I'd kindly gotten away from it. I'd be interested to see that, like, just statistically speaking. You already know.
Well, it was so fascinating because all three of those teams are so vastly different. I think that 08 team might have been the deepest of the three talent-wise. I mean, you had McKell on defense, you had Justin at quarterback, Neil at wide receiver. I mean, there's just Jared Rich. I mean, you can go down the list, stacked. But 09 was like Neil's senior year, and that was Neil's best year.
Yeah.
Taking the onside kickback, Greene County, just putting him at Wildcat against Glasgow and just telling him, go for it. Yeah. 2012 was such a different team because we had such a basic offense that was so dominant, just a basic option with Jacob and Chad, and that was Chad's senior year. So there's strengths and positives, all three of those teams. But I wanted to bring it up just because we still talk about it a lot, just comparing, because that's five.
I'm glad you brought it up. I will say that I think that is a debate worth having.
It's a good debate.
It's just a positive debate. You know, I don't mind to get ragged on for my opinion, because that's all at the end of the day. All it is my opinion. I would love to. I don't know how I could do it, but we'd have to do it somewhere. I would love to just get as many people together and just get it, cameras and mics, and just talk about what it was like playing football.
That 5-year stretch, people don't understand some of the teams we had to play against and the talent. 2 different Fort Campbell teams with a guy who set the record at WKU for all-purpose yardage, and Andrews. Like, the Greene County boys were so good. I mean, there's a span of teams. We had to play Paducah Tillman. We went to Louisville Central and played that team. Like, there's so many good teams that...
Yeah, see... But I was so far removed because I didn't play football until high school.
Right, me either.
And I wasn't. To me, it was something. I mean, my parents were like, "You're either going to play a sport or you're going to get a job, so I'll play a sport." You know, so I wasn't as invested in the vastness of this. You know, the various teams and things like that. But it doesn't matter, because I was still, everybody who played on those teams was just as much a part of those teams. And everybody, no matter how far removed you were from the vastness of it, you still knew the importance of it. There was nothing like those two. For me, there was nothing like those 2 years, my junior and senior year. There was nothing more real at those times. There was nothing more real, and I miss it.
I mean, even in 09, I was a freshman who didn't play a second of meaningful varsity football, and that was still one of the best times of my life to be associated with that team. And then, but people, I'll bring this up too. I think it was 2010. The 2010 team was good. Jackson's senior year, that team was good. They had to play a really amazing Danville team in the region title game, but they were leading at halftime of that game. They would talk about it.
Yeah,
that team was really good. I mean, that 5-year stretch of football was just unbelievable for the county, and hopefully get back to that.
I want to see it get back to that, but I think it takes people. I think it's going to have to start. I'm not on the inside or on. I don't know anything about anything with the way the program is right now, but I think it's going to have to start with coaches at every level and a core group of players that it's almost their identity to be
great,
to make not just to them to be great individually, but to make Monroe County football great.
Well, you know this firsthand too. That 2018, they worked their butts off.
Oh gosh! Oh, I was scared. I was scared, dude.
It was just. I mean, I act like I know. I only know the stories of brothers and sisters from all the guys on that team, and I hear about it, and it's like those guys. They won 1 or 2 games in 07. They played in the Poop Bowl against Allen County. And the very next year, both those programs are amazing because that just shows you how much they worked at it. And, see Neil be as great as he was, but also Justin at quarterback. You can just go down the list of dudes. There were some dudes on that team, and it was a great time.
It was. Some legends. I think I need to get some jerseys and put up in here. I'll put this out if anybody would like to donate one of their jerseys to put up in here. I'd love to have it and put it up. And I could fit probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I took that poster down 6. I could fit quite a few in here. So, all right, man. Well, I know you've had a weekend out, so I'll let you get back to Louisville. But dude, it's been awesome.
I love podcasting. I love being a guest.
Yeah, I appreciate you doing it because my voice and I'm just under the weather right now. So, but if you start getting sick, it's not my fault. All right.
Oh, tough.
It's somebody else's. All right. All right, man. Let's get you out of here.
No, all right, man.